Hello and welcome to my mat. Today we're going to be doing just an overall flow, stretching, strengthening, and a lot of balance. We have the option to use 2 yoga blocks and a blanket if you have them. Don't need them, but it's an option. I'm going to avoid kneeling, so we will be on the mat at the beginning and the end, but you can choose how you get down and up off the mat. I'll offer you some suggestions, but if you have any knee issues, do it your own way. So we're going to start seated. So take a seat. And if you have a blanket or a towel, fold it up about 2 inches high and tuck it under your rear end. So you're sitting on the front half of that blanket. It lifts your hips up, puts your hips and your low back into a more neutral position, and it offers a little bit of more space so that you can sit comfortably cross-legged. This whole warm-up you can do sitting in a chair. If getting down, up and down off the floor is uncomfortable for you, you can just sit on the edge of a chair as long as it's stable and it's not going to roll away from you. Sit up nice and tall, close your eyes if it's comfortable for you. Take a couple of deep breaths. Glide your shoulder blades down your back. Another big breath. Full exhale. On your next inhale, circle sweep your arms up overhead. And exhale, pressing that air back out. If you have any shoulder issues, an option on another inhale is to bring your hands up through heart center and back down through heart center, and that helps open up some space in your shoulders and take some stress off. One more huge breath in. This time on an exhale, bring your right hand down to the mat and really reach that left arm up overhead. Really feel a side stretch and shine your heart up towards the ceiling. Really open up the front of your body. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale the left hand down now this time. Really reach that right arm up overhead. Reach for the sky and shine your heart forward. Inhale, both hands up. Next time as we exhale, you'll bring your left hand to your right knee and come into a twist. Be sure your shoulders aren't scrunched up by your ears, so lower your shoulders down. Inhale, circle arms up. Exhale the opposite side. Right hand to left knee. Sit up nice and tall here. Lower your shoulders down. Inhale up, both arms down. From here, we'll do a seated cat-cow. And again, you can stand up if you'd like to or be in a chair. Press all of the air out of your lungs. And then on an inhale, open your heart forward. Maybe reach your arms behind you. On an exhale, like someone punched you in the belly, arch your back towards the back of the room. Dip your chin. Inhale, open the front of your body, arch it forward. Exhale, as you dip your chin, think about really trying to pull your shoulder blades apart from each other. Do this a few more times at your own breath. You can use your arms or keep them on your lap, whatever is comfortable for you. Cat-cow, inhale as you open forward, exhale as you arch backwards. From here, we're going to come up to standing. So if you have any knee issues and don't want to kneel on them, you can stand up however is comfortable for you. Otherwise, go ahead and swing around into a tabletop pose. Hands and feet to the mat, and then tuck your toes under in the back and lift your hips up towards the ceiling into downward facing dog. And we're going to spend a minute here. So spread your fingers really wide and press into your fingers. So think about your fingertips being like starfish and the arms of a starfish holding onto a rock for all they're worth. Really press into your fingers. That takes weight off of your wrists. Maybe bend your knees deeply, and as you bend your knees, shoot your tailbone towards the back of the room. Really feel a big stretching and elongation in your spine. On an inhale, walk your feet forward to the front of the mat to a half lift. So here, hands on thighs or shins, a nice flat back here. Think about gliding your shoulder blades downwards towards your tailbone and maybe pinching them together a little bit. That'll give you a nice flat back. Your gaze is straight down onto the floor in front of your feet. Exhale, bending your knees, forward fold. Inhale, circle sweep your arms all the way around, up, and exhale, arms down into mountain pose. We're going to do 2 sun breaths just to get movement in our bodies, and then we'll start doing some fun stuff. So inhale, circle arms up overhead. Exhale, bending your knees a little, forward fold. Inhale to a half lift. Exhale, forward fold. And then inhale, circle sweep your arms down, around, and up. And exhale, down. One more sun breath just to get air and movement going. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold with bent knees. That protects your low back. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, circle sweep your arms down, around, and up, and back down to mountain pose. This time we're gonna bring our arms to the mat and step back into downward facing dog. So inhale your arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Hands to the mat and step back into downward facing dog. Again, remember to spread your fingers wide. Bend your knees if you'd like to. That might be easier. And maybe alternate bending one knee and then the other. Here, think about shooting your tailbone straight up towards the ceiling. Press your heart towards your knees. Press away from your hands. Almost feel like your upper body is almost trying to do a handstand here, even though you're not. Then inhale your right foot up. And on an exhale, bring it forward. Even if you have to grab that ankle, carry it forward. We're going to come into a high lunge here. Walk both feet towards the outside edges of the mat so you have a little bit of a wider base. On an inhale, we're going to bring our arms up overhead. And exhale your hands down. Here, put your hands on your hips and make sure that your hips are aiming in the same direction as that front foot. And we're going to do a little bit of strengthening here. So on a count of 3, we're going to lower our back knee down to just an inch off the mat. So we'll do 3, 1, 2, 3. And then bring your arms up overhead again. And bring your hands behind your back. And do a little baby back bend here. So maybe clasp your fingers behind your back. If that's not comfortable, you can bend your elbows and just hold opposite wrists. Or you can put your hands on your back hips as if you had pockets. Just come into a little baby back bend. And then go ahead and bring both hands down to the mat. Plant your left hand right next to your foot. Reach your right hand up towards the ceiling into a twist. There's a lot of energy in that back leg. So try to think about really strengthening and straightening that back leg. Inhale that hand back down to that foot and step back to downward facing dog. Again, spread out your fingers wide, press into your fingers. It'll take pressure off your wrists. This time lift your left leg up towards the back wall or the ceiling. On an exhale, step that foot forward or hold onto that ankle and drag it through. Maybe take your feet a little bit wider if you feel like you need a wider base for balance. Inhale those arms up overhead into a high lunge. A lot of energy in that back leg. Go ahead and bring your hands back down to your hips or to heart center. And we're going to do 3 of those knee dips in the back. Check that your front knee is right over your front ankle. And then 3 knee dips. Just bring it down to a couple inches off the mat. This is a great way to work out everything in that back leg. We'll inhale our hands up high. Exhale, bring your hands behind your back, either clasped fingers or holding onto opposite wrists, or pretend like you have your hands in hip pockets. And we're going to just do a little back bend here. Open up across the front of your body. Bring your hands back up. Back down to the mat in front of that front foot. Step back to downward facing dog. Bend out those knees, pedal one, then the other. On an inhale, walk forward to the front of the mat. Half lift. Exhale, forward fold. And inhale, circle sweep your arms down, around, and up. And back down. Next, we're going to do a Warrior 2 flow, which is one of my favorites. So from mountain pose at the top of your mat, really engage your legs so that you can feel your kneecaps lift up a little bit. Your heels, even though you're not going to move them, squeeze your inner heels towards each other without moving them. Notice the entire inner column of your legs tightening up. From here, step back with your right foot. So your feet are going to be perpendicular to each other now. One's facing the front of the room and one's facing me. That front knee is bent and directly over that front ankle. Make sure that that knee's not flopping in. So you should be able to look down and see your big toe. Put your hands on your hips and square them off to the screen. Inhale your arms into a T and look out over your left hand. Warrior 2. Try to make sure that your shoulders are over your hips. A lot of times people tend to do warrior on the go. So Warrior 2. From right here, think about, without actually moving, think about squeezing your inner thighs together. And notice how that engages all of your leg muscles. Then with your left hand, reach towards that left, flip your left palm up and reverse warrior. You can look up towards that left hand if it's comfortable for your neck, or just keep your neck down. Really feel that whole side body stretch. Inhale back up to warrior two, arms into a T. And exhale into a side angle. So bring that left forearm down to that left thigh. Really reach that right arm up overhead. Feel a wonderful stretch from those back toes all the way up. And again, re-engage those inner thighs. Even though you're not actually moving, think about squeezing those inner thighs together. If you'd like to work on a little bit of core here, your left forearm, you can drop it down so it's just hanging. And really notice how that kicks in core. Inhale back up to warrior two. From here, straighten your left leg. If you need to shorten your stance, you can hop that foot a little bit closer and square your hips off again to the long edge of your yoga mat. Your hands are still out in a warrior two. In this case, what we're going to do is tip forward. Your right hip is going to bump up towards where the wall and the ceiling meet, and your left hand is going to come down towards your knee, your shin, wherever it works. And then think about shining your heart up. Make sure that that top shoulder isn't flopping forward. This is triangle pose. Inhale back up to the top. Rebend that front knee. Shift your weight into that left knee and step forward to the front of the mat, mountain pose. So again, readjust. Find your feet about hip width apart, about 6 inches in between. Re-engage those inner heels. So squeeze those inner thighs together and notice that whole lift. You might even feel a lift in your pelvic floor. And this time we'll do a chair pose before we come into warrior two on the other side. So in chair pose, feet and knees both the same distance apart. So either both hip width apart or both together, your choice. And in chair, we're gonna sink back. Make sure you can look down and see your big toes. This is a really great leg stretch. And now I wanna make sure that your rear end goes back. So I don't wanna see knees forward. I want your rear end back. Your arms can go out as a counterweight. Settle in here, find a spot that's good for you. It can be a little baby chair, it can be a really low chair, you decide. Big breath in, and then on an exhale, bring your right arm behind you into a twist. Inhale forward, and exhale your left arm behind you into a twist. And inhale forward, we'll do that once more on each side. Exhale your right arm behind you. Inhale forward, exhale your left arm behind you. Inhale forward, and then go ahead and stand up. Now with your right foot, step back, and we're going to come into just a wide-legged forward fold, do a little bit of a hamstring stretch, and then we'll do warrior two on the opposite side. So from here, your feet are parallel to each other, and you decide how wide or narrow your feet are going to go. Hands on hips, breathe up nice and tall, and then on an exhale, just pivot forward at your hips, and you can reach your hands down to the ground, to yoga blocks, to a chair or coffee table, whatever works for you. And settle in here. Notice that hamstring stretch. Maybe sway side to side just a little bit. If you would like to try to add a outer calf stretch here, you can give this a try. It doesn't work for everyone. You can take your toes and bring them inwards, so you're kind of pigeon-toed. And then notice if you feel a stretch on the outside of your calf. It's an area that's hard to stretch, and sometimes this does it. And bring your feet back to parallel if you did that pigeon toe. Hands on hips, engage your core muscles here and use those core and back muscles to lift yourself back up. And then step to the opposite side of your mat. We'll do that warrior flow on the opposite side. So mountain pose, this time you're facing to your right. Inhale your arms up overhead. Exhale them down, and this time step back with the opposite foot. Hope I didn't confuse you. Step back with your left foot this time. The feet are parallel. One is facing the screen and the other one is facing off to your right. Check that your hips are lined up, squared off with the long edge of your mat, and that that front knee is directly over the front ankle, and that you can look down and see your right big toe. That knee tends to flop in. You want to keep that knee pressing out towards the back wall. Shoulders over hips. Arms into a T, and look out over your right hand. Then reach towards your right, flip that right palm up, and reach it up towards the ceiling. And keep that right knee aimed towards the back wall. Don't let it flop forward. Look up towards that hand if it's comfortable. Otherwise, just keep your neck in line with the rest of your spine. Reverse warrior. Inhale back into warrior two. Looking out over your right hand. And then tip forward and reach that right forearm down to your right thigh. Left arm goes up towards the ceiling, nice big stretch, a lot of power in that back leg. So even though our whole weight is over our right leg here, I want you to think about really pressing into that back foot. If you'd like to add some core here, release that right forearm from the right thigh and bring it down to the ground, and now your core is really having to kick in to hold your torso up here. Take a breath. On an inhale, come back up to warrior two, and then straighten that front knee. And we're going to come into that pyramid pose again. So breathe up nice and tall, and then shift forward with your right arm as you bump your left hip up towards the opposite wall. And right arm comes down towards your knee or your shin, left hand straight up. Shine your heart up towards the ceiling. That'll help open up that upper shoulder. Pyramid pose. Breathe here, take a deep breath in, full exhale. Inhale back up, rebend that front knee into warrior two, and step back to the front of the mat. Shake it out, wiggle, do what feels good here. And then we're going to come back into that wide leg fold and take your feet at 45 degrees. We're going to bend our knees here. So bend your knees and make sure that your knees track directly over those toes. Don't let your knees flop in. Knees and toes are going in the same direction. Put your hands on your inner thighs. Press a little bit outwards. So this is a great inner thigh stretch. And then bring one shoulder forward as you bring the opposite elbow backwards as you're pressing into those inner thighs. This is just a lovely way to get a torso stretch and an inner thigh stretch. Take a breath here, full breath. Settle into this stretch. Inhale back up. And then the opposite shoulder forward and the opposite elbow points towards the back wall. Press into those inner thighs. Use your leg muscles here. And just settle in and enjoy this stretch. Take a full deep inhale and exhale here. Come back up, straighten those knees, and we're going to come down to sitting on the mat. You're welcome to get there however you'd like to. We'll do a little bit of core and some final stretching. I'm going to come down to the mat by going into a really deep squat. If you have any knee issues, just sit down however you're comfortable and I will meet you there. If you'd like to try this garland pose with me, deep squat, take your feet wide, pointed out at 45 degrees so that your toes are to the edge of your mat. And from here, what we're going to do is make sure your knees track over your toes. We're just going to come into a full deep squat. Try to keep your heels to the ground. If this is comfortable for you, you can put your elbows inside of your inner thighs, your knees, hands at heart center, and give a little press. And if this is not comfortable for you, you can sit on a block or just sit down. Just come straight to the mat. And then go ahead and take a seat. And we'll come into butterfly pose. So butterfly pose, knees wide, soles of feet together. You can always prop up blocks or rolled up blankets or towels under your knees if that's more comfortable for your hips. And go ahead and sit up nice and tall here. Lower your shoulder blades down your spine. So create space between your shoulders and your ears. Settle in, maybe rock side to side a little bit. And we're going to come into a forward fold here. And rounding our backs, dipping our chins, and just melting into this. So go ahead and dip your chin, let your head be really heavy as if it's a bowling ball. And then just let your torso come forward. So at the beginning of class, when we did cat-cow and you were arching your back towards the back of the room, go ahead and do that. You can walk your hands forward a little bit if that's comfortable. And really round your back here and feel a stretch through your entire spine, maybe into your neck. Find some length in the back of your neck and a stretch. Take a few deep breaths here and just settle into this pose. It's a wonderful way to just focus on what your body feels like right now. Notice how your ribs are expanding and contracting as you breathe in. And using your hands, walk back up. We'll do a little stretch and then we'll lie down and do some core work. So go ahead and take both legs out long. Give them a little wiggle, shake your knees out, and then bend your right knee. And if you can leave it right here, or you can take it to the outside of that opposite knee. Sit up nice and tall here. So no slouching in your back. Make sure you're sitting up really straight. With your left hand, hold on to that right knee or the left elbow crease to that right knee. Sit up really tall and reach your right arm behind you. So we're in a seated twist. Try to lower your shoulders down so that they're not scrunched up by your ears. And then come back to center. Bring that sole of your right foot to your inner left thigh and sit up again really tall. And then we're going to just shift forward at the hips and come into a little bit of a forward fold, aiming towards those toes, the left toes. You don't have to go very far before you feel a hamstring stretch. When we did the butterfly pose, we rounded our back and dipped our chin. Here I'm asking you to keep that spine really long. Don't arch your back or round your back. And just walk forward a little bit here, and it doesn't take very far, and feel a really nice hamstring stretch kicking in. Maybe you can reach those toes only if you can keep a long spine without dipping your chin and rounding your back. Point those toes straight up towards the ceiling. Really activate, flex that foot. Then we'll come back up and switch legs. So go ahead and shake out both legs. Bend your left knee, and you can keep that foot right there, or you can bring it to the outside of that opposite knee. Sit up tall again, so make sure that you're sitting right up on your sit bones. Right hand on left knee or right elbow crease on left knee. Reach that left arm behind you. Come into a twist, sit up tall, and lower your shoulder blades down your back. And breathe into this. Take a couple of really nice breaths here, and then just settle into that stretch. And then we'll come back to center and bring the sole of your left foot to your inner right thigh. And again, sit up really tall. Check that you're sitting up as straight as you can, as if somebody's got a string on the crown of your head and is pulling you up. Keeping that long spine, you're gonna walk towards your right toes. And it doesn't take very much to feel that hamstring stretch. Maybe you can reach towards your toes, but only if you can keep that length in your spine without rounding and arching your back. Flex those toes, point them up towards the ceiling, and really activate that right foot. Then we'll come back up, shake out both legs, and we're gonna lower down to the mat and do a little bit of core work. So first off, come into boat pose, and this is how we'll lower down. Boat pose, you're kind of gonna balance on both sit bones. Your feet can stay right here, or you can take your toes up to a yoga block. A lot of different options here. And notice my back. So this is what I don't want to see. I want your back to be super straight, almost like you're leaning against a board. So to do that, you need to open up across your chest, and that'll keep your back straight. Your feet can stay right here, or toes to the mat, or you can lift those legs up. Boat pose, open up across your chest and collarbones to keep your spine long. And just hang out here for a second, because this is an amazing core work right here. And as you're ready, you can hold onto your thighs, lower your feet, and roll down to the mat. Reach your feet out really long and your arms up overhead. Feel a full belly stretch here. And then bring both feet up towards the ceiling. Maybe bend one knee and then the other. Take them both up towards the ceiling, and both hands up towards the ceiling. So this is dead bug. Take a moment, roll out your wrists, roll out your ankles, just because it feels so wonderful. And we'll do a little bit more core here. The trick here is to keep your low back to the mat. So if you need to make some adjustments, maybe lift your hips up, really like suction your low back to the mat. What we're gonna do here is take your feet towards the end of the mat and your hands up overhead. Keep your low back stuck to the mat. When you lower your legs, as soon as you feel your low back lifting off of the mat, that's where you stop. And then meet back up at center. Do a few more of these. Another option, if you have any back pain at all with this, is to just do one leg at a time, keeping your low back tight to that mat. Don't let that low back arch up off the mat. So a couple of different options here. This is great core work. And again, the trick here is that low back. Your low back is what's going to tell you how far down to lower your legs or not. And we'll meet back up in dead bug. One more ankle and wrist roll. Then bring the soles of your feet down to the mat. Cross your right ankle over your left thigh above your knee. And you might feel a stretch right here in your outer hip. If you don't, you can lift that left leg up towards you. And by doing that, you're bringing your whole right leg towards your chest. Your right feet, flex those toes, point them up towards the ceiling, really activate that foot. Maybe reach through and hold your thigh or your shin if you're really flexible. You decide how far away or close to your chest this whole right leg is going to be. You can also use a strap, a scarf, a dog leash, and wrap around the front of this shin and use it to pull that leg towards you. One more option is to put that lower foot on a yoga block and use that to leverage your leg a little bit higher up. Keep that right foot really active. Flex those toes and notice the stretch in your right hip here. And then we're going to switch sides. This is a reclined pigeon. This is a great alternative for the standard pigeon pose. Both soles of your feet to the mat. Go ahead and windshield wiper both knees to the left, both to the right. Just do a little windshield wiper action here. And then we'll switch sides. So this time put your left ankle over your right thigh. Flex those toes and make sure that this foot is really active. So if you feel a stretch in your left hip, you can stay right here. You can put a block under that foot, or you can reach your hands through and hold on to that thigh or wrap around to that shin, or use a scarf or a dog leash or a yoga strap to pull that towards you. And then wherever you find a really nice stretch in the outside hip on your left leg, that's where you want to stay. Breathe into this. Keep that left foot flexed and active. Settle into this stretch here. It feels so wonderful. Then we'll lower that foot down, take both feet to the mat, take your feet wide towards the edges of your mat, and then go ahead and do that windshield wiper action again. One last long stretch, so legs out long, arms overhead. Really feel a stretch through your whole front body here. And then I'm going to invite you to find whatever pose you want to be in to relax for a couple of minutes in final relaxation shavasana. So you're welcome to stay right here or have your knees bent. You can take your soles of your feet together and come into a lying butterfly. Take a moment here, shift around and find a position where you can come to stillness and relax for just a couple of minutes. And then we're going to take 3 deep breaths together before we end. So find your comfortable spot, someplace where you can just kind of quit fidgeting and come to stillness. You're welcome to put your hands on your belly if you'd like to. It's up to you. Otherwise, your arms can be at your side. You figure out what feels good to you. Wherever you're at in your breath, press all of the air out. On your next inhale, fill your belly first, then feel ribs, chest, collarbones. As you release that air, relax your feet, relax your knees and hips. Let those muscles go. Another big inhale, belly first. Feel your ribs, chest, collarbones. Full exhale, relax your hands and fingers. Let your shoulder blades melt into the mat. Another full inhale, belly first, ribs, collarbones. Pull air all the way into your neck. As you release that air, relax your forehead, relax your eyes, relax your lower jaw. Make sure you're not clenching your teeth. And then just breathe at your own rate, your own pace, whatever feels natural to you. And from here, I invite you to just stay in this shavasana, this final relaxation, for as long as is comfortable for you. Sometimes we lead incredibly hectic lives, and it's really nice to have someone give you permission to just close your eyes, lay still, and just breathe for a couple of minutes. So I give you permission to relax and enjoy a couple of minutes of stillness and quiet. Namaste. Thank you for meeting me on my mat.